The Galactic Council Chamber was an expanse of polished obsidian, lit only by the cold glow of the central hollow projector. Dozens of species sat in towering, curved seats, some resembling insect hives, others like crystalline thrones. In the center, looming over all, stood Warlord Kaztrax of the XY Carry Dominion. "The terms are simple," Kaztrax declared, his voice a guttural snarl. "A team of warriors from any species may enter the Crucible. If they survive, they prove themselves worthy. If they fail," he flexed all four of his clawed arms, "they kneel." The chamber buzzed with the murmurs of the assembled dignitaries. The Crucible was a spectacle of slaughter, an event in which the Dominion's finest warriors crushed challengers under claw and fang. No species had ever won. Most never returned. At the far end of the room, Captain Alex Vega leaned back in her seat, arms crossed. She was the only human present. Her uniform, crisp but unadorned, was a stark contrast to the opulent robes and armored exoskeletons of the other delegates. "This is a joke," she said, loud enough for the translator drones to carry her voice across the chamber. "A gladiator match to decide the fate of a species? Sounds like something out of a bad action movie." A delegate from the Solvier, an avian species known for their keen tactical minds, turned his beaked head toward her. "It is more than that, Captain Vega. It is a declaration. If no one stands against the XY Carry, they claim the right to enforce their rule." Alex exhaled sharply. She knew Earth standing in the galactic community was tenuous. Humans had clawed their way into space only a few decades prior, and though they had impressed with their rapid adaptation to alien technology, they were still considered an oddity, not the strongest, not the fastest, just persistent. And now they were being challenged. Alex straightened. "Fine, we accept." A ripple of shock moved through the chamber. Even Warlord Kaztrax paused before laughing, a deep, rasping sound. "Foolish. Choose your warriors, Captain. They die with you." She didn't flinch. "We'll see." Building the team. The moment she stepped onto the deck of the Rocinante, Alex knew she was about to make some questionable decisions. First up was Dr. Malik Anand, currently buried up to his elbows in the open panel of an alien drone. His workspace was a mess of half-dismantled machinery, coffee cups, and a whiteboard covered in equations. He was a genius, no doubt, but Alex was fairly certain he hadn't slept in 2 days. "Malik," she called. He startled, bumping his head on the panel. "Oh, yeah." "We're fighting in a deathmatch arena against the universe's deadliest warriors. You in?" Malik wiped his hands on his already stained lab coat. "How long do I have to prepare?" "A week." He stared at her, then at the mess of machinery, then back at her. "Well, I've always wanted to stress test some of my more experimental ideas." "Great," Alex said. "You're in." Next was Juno Junkrat Rios, demolitions expert, certified lunatic, and, unfortunately, the best person Alex knew when it came to unconventional warfare. Juno was lounging in the cargo bay, tossing a modified plasma grenade up and down like a baseball. Her hair was half-shaved, her arms covered in tattoos of explosions. "Juno," Alex said. "What's up, Cap? You want to blow things up legally for once?" Juno's grin stretched ear to ear. "I thought you'd never ask." Last was Elias Carter, the team's wild card, linguist, philosopher, diplomatic advisor. On paper, he had no place in a death match. But Alex had seen him do the impossible, convince warring factions to negotiate, turn violent skirmishes into tense alliances. She found him in the observation deck, staring out at the endless expanse of space. "You don't fight," Alex said. "You talk. So, why should I bring you to a battle arena?" Elias smiled. "Because words are weapons, too. And I'd like to see what happens when we make them our sharpest blade." Alex nodded. "Welcome to the team." Setting the stakes. The team gathered in the briefing room. A hologram of the Crucible flickered into view, a massive coliseum with shifting battlefields, traps, and simulated war zones. Malik whistled. "That looks unnecessarily difficult." "Yup," Alex said. "And it's rigged against us. We'll be facing enhanced warriors, gravity shifts, environmental hazards. The Dominion wants us dead before we even reach the final round. Juno popped a piece of gum in her mouth. Then let's make it interesting. Elias tapped the table. The XY carry win because they expect their enemies to fight them their way. We need to fight like humans. Alex smirked. Exactly. She glanced around the room. They weren't the strongest. They weren't the fastest. But they were the most unpredictable. And that was going to be enough. The XY carry homeworld, Vorkrau, was as unwelcoming as its inhabitants, an expanse of jagged obsidian mountains and sulfuric storms that turned the sky a sickly green. But it was the crucible that stole the team's breath. The Colosseum was a monolithic structure carved into the planet's bedrock, a brutalist fortress of towering stone walls and serrated metal spires. Above it, hovering observation decks held thousands of spectators, diplomats, mercenaries, and warlords eager to witness yet another species crushed under the XY carry's claws. Inside the human team's holding chamber, a dull thrum of energy pulsed through the air. It wasn't just anticipation. The walls themselves seemed to vibrate with bloodlust, as if centuries of violence had seeped into the stone. Juno Rios cracked her knuckles. All right, boys and girls. Anyone else feeling a little underdressed for their own funeral? Elias Carter, ever composed, adjusted the cuffs of his jacket. Only if you consider this a funeral rather than a rather aggressive diplomatic exercise. Malik Anand, already hunched over a stolen XY carry drone, frowned. If this is a funeral, I'd at least like to go out in a blaze of scientific achievement. He tapped the drone's interface, rerouting its energy capacitors. And preferably take a few of them with me. Alex Vega had heard it all before, the bravado, the gallows humor, but she could see it in their faces, the weight of what was coming. She had led soldiers into unwinnable battles before, but this wasn't just combat. This was spectacle, and they were the entertainment. A metallic voice echoed through the chamber speakers. Human combatants, report to the arena. Alex took a slow breath. Showtime. The gauntlet. The moment the gates opened, the roar of the crowd slammed into them like a shockwave. The arena floor was huge, a shifting battleground of jagged platforms, deep trenches, and looming mechanical hazards. On the far end, their adversaries emerged. For XY carry warriors, each twice the height of human, their chitinous armor gleaming under the blood-red sky. And the announcer? A disembodied voice that practically oozed sadistic delight. For the first trial, our human guest will attempt to survive. The gauntlet. The ground rumbled. Across the battlefield, massive stone pillars began shifting, revealing a series of brutal obstacles. A corridor of swinging blades, electrified walls, and pits that crackle with energy. Beyond them, the finish line. No weapons, no cover, just a deadly sprint. Juno let out a low whistle. I hate cardio. Alex eyed the course, mind already calculating. Stick together. Prioritize momentum. And a klaxon blared. The countdown had begun. 5. The XY carry warriors crouched into a predatory stance, claws flexing. 4. Malik muttered, "Oh, this is going to suck." 3. Elias simply exhaled, calm despite the chaos. 2. Juno cracked her neck. Let's cause some property damage. 1. Go. They sprinted, surviving the unbeatable. The first section was simple, a sprint across a collapsing bridge. Easy, if not for the enormous spiked pendulum swinging down with enough force to turn bone to dust. Alex led, moving like she could see the future, ducking just as a pendulum whooshed over her head. Juno, less elegant, simply vaulted over one, barely avoiding a face-first meeting with the ground. I love this place, she cackled. Behind them, Malik wasn't so lucky. A pendulum clipped his arm, sending him sprawling before he could recover. The bridge beneath him cracked, threatening to drop him into the abyss. Elias grabbed his collar and hauled him up. Apologies for the rough rescue. Appreciated, Malik wheezed, staggering forward. Next up, a corridor of energy walls that flickered in an unpredictable pattern. Juno studied the shifting gaps. All right, kids, follow my lead. Without waiting, she charged straight through, twisting at impossible angles, practically dancing between the lethal fields. Alex and Elias followed with military precision, Malik lagging slightly behind as he muttered, "I'm a scientist, not a parkour expert." A wall shifted directly in front of him. He yelped and dove, rolling just in time to avoid disintegration. "Nice save, Doc." Juno cheered. "I hate this sport," Malik gasped. Turning the tide. As the final stretch came into view, so did their XY carry opponents. The four warriors had bulldozed through the obstacles with brute force, barely slowing. Now, they stood between the humans and victory. Alex's mind worked fast. Direct combat was suicide. They needed an opening. "Juno," the demolitions expert grinned. "I thought you'd never ask." She tossed Malik the hack drone. "Remote detonation. Give him a light show." Malik fumbled it before catching on. Oh! As the XY carry advanced, Juno bolted ahead, drawing attention. "HEY lizards," she hollered. "Bet you can't catch me." The warriors lunged. That's when Malik hit the switch. The stolen drone, buried under debris behind the XY carry, exploded in a shower of sparks. It wasn't lethal, but it was bright enough to blind half the Coliseum. Alex didn't hesitate. "Go!" Blinded and disoriented, the XY carry flailed as the humans slipped past him, diving across the finish line seconds before the countdown hit 0. The stadium was silent. Then the crowd roared. Against all odds, against all expectations, the humans had won. A dangerous reputation. The announcer's voice crackled over the speakers, laced with disbelief. "The humans survive." Alex pushed herself up, breathing hard, scanning the stands. The reactions were mixed, some furious, some delighted. The crowd had expected slaughter. Instead, they'd gotten defiance. Warlord Kizzytrack stood in his observation booth, his expression unreadable, but his claws flexed. The XY carry hated unpredictability. And humans? They were proving to be very unpredictable. Elias adjusted his cuffs. "Well," he murmured, watching the audience erupt into debate, "I do believe we've made an impression." Juno patted Malik on the back. "You, my friend, just committed war crimes with a remote-controlled toaster." Malik groaned. "Why do I feel like that's not the worst thing we can do?" Alex smirked. "Because it's only round one." She turned toward the looming doors that led to the next trial. The battle wasn't over. It was just getting started. The roar of the crowd still echoed in Alex Vega's ears as the team was ushered into a dimly lit chamber beneath the crucible. The air was thick with the scent of burning plasma and ozone, a stark reminder that their victory had not been expected. A XY carry attendant, his chitinous exoskeleton gleaming under the low lights, clicked his mandibles. "You live." His tone suggested this was a grave inconvenience. "You will not survive the next round." Juno Rios cracked her neck. That's what they said last time. The XY carry ignored her, gesturing toward projection on the far wall. A swirling mass of corridors, shifting platforms, and looming towers flickered into view. A maze. The second trial, the attendant drone, tests intellect, adaptability, and teamwork. The labyrinth of torment shifts at random, separating teams, introducing hostile elements. You must navigate it and reach the exit before your competitors. Failure means elimination. Elias Carter, ever composed, tilted his head. Elimination, as in disqualification, or... The XY carry's mandibles clicked again. As in death. Malik Onan let out a slow breath. "I hate this sport." Alex studied the projection. The labyrinth was a nightmare of dead ends, rotating walls, and pressure-sensitive traps. It wasn't just a test of strategy. It was designed to isolate and destroy. "All right," she said, "we've handled worse. We adapt. We win." Juno smirked. "Now that's the kind of motivational speech I sign up for." The chamber doors slid open. The countdown began. 10 seconds until the maze. No turning back now. Lost and hunted. The moment they stepped into the labyrinth, the walls shifted. Stone slabs groaned as sections of the floor retracted. Corridors folding inward like a puzzle box rearranging itself. And then thud. The ground trembled as unseen barriers slammed down between them. Alex barely had time to react before she found herself alone. Her earpiece crackled. Low! Anyone, damn it. Juno's voice cut out. Perfect. Alex exhaled, assessing her surroundings. The corridor ahead was long and dimly lit. The walls lined what looked like deep cracks. But she wasn't fooled. She grabbed a small piece of debris and tossed it forward. Zap! A burst of energy erupted from the cracks, obliterating the debris midair. A classic walk-and-die trap. Somewhere beyond the shifting walls, her team was scattered, each facing their own nightmare. But they weren't XY carry. They weren't going to play by the rules. Juno, the wild card. Juno Rios thrived in chaos. When the walls slammed down, she barely paused before sprinting forward, vaulting over a crumbling section of floor and landing hard on the other side. The dim lighting flickered, revealing twisted, metallic figures hunched in the darkness. Drones. Juno grinned. Finally, something to punch. The first drone lunged. She sidestepped, twisting midair, and brought her boot down onto its head. Sparks flew as it crumpled, but the others were already advancing. She didn't wait. Snatching a loose energy cell from the wreckage, she jammed it into her gauntlet and rewired it on the fly. 1 second. 2. The drones charged. Juno through the overclock cell. It detonated midair, sending a concussive blast through the corridor. She wiped soot from her cheek. Too easy. Malik, the problem solver. Malik's section of the maze was quieter, which somehow made it worse. The corridor stretched in both directions, identical in every way. He sighed. Of course. A logic puzzle. He crouched, analyzing the ground. Faint energy signatures lined the floor. Some safe, others likely set to reduce him to atoms. He tapped his wrist console, running calculations. All right, probability matrix, and there, that tile safe. Carefully, he stepped forward. A hiss sounded behind him. He turned. The walls were closing in. Oh, come on. Thinking fast. He tore a panel from the wall, yanking a handful of exposed wires. He twisted two together, rerouting the power. The walls shuddered, paused. Grinning, he sprinted forward. Science, 1, XY Curie, 0. Elias, the diplomat. Elias Carter had no weapons, no gadgets, but he had his mind. His section of the labyrinth was different, open, with massive statues lining the sides, each carved in the image of a long-dead warrior. The air was thick with the scent of old stone and something else. Movement. He turned as a figure emerged from the shadows, a towering XY carry warrior, but something was off. The creature's chitin was cracked, its eyes hollow. A simulation, a psychological test. Elias clasped his hands behind his back. You are not real, he said calmly. The XY carry specter growled. You are a memory, Elias continued. A warrior who died in the crucible. Tell me, does this cycle never end? The specter hesitated. Elias smiled. Even in death, the dominion binds you here. Is that not dishonor? A long pause. Then, the XY carry stepped aside. Elias walked past untouched. Word were weapons. 2. The final stretch. The labyrinth shifted again, and suddenly, the team was reunited. Juno skidded into view first. Miss me? Malik stumbled in, breathless. Hey, this place. Elias arrived last, dusting off his jacket. Fascinating architecture. Alex smirked. No time for sightseeing. Ahead, the final chamber loomed. A massive gate, beyond which victory awaited. But they weren't alone. 2 XY carry warriors stood before the exit, weapons drawn. Unlike the earlier challengers, these ones weren't brute force fighters. Their movements were precise, calculated. Alex cracked her knuckles. We do this together. The XY carry charged. The fight was fast, brutal. Juno ducking under a blade, retaliating with a snap kick. Malik disabling a warrior's armor with a well-placed EMP. Elias redirecting an attack at just the right moment. Alex? She finished it. With a final, devastating strike, the last warrior fell. The exit loomed. Alex glanced at her team, bruised but alive. Let's go. The doors opened, and the final challenge awaited. The doors slammed shut behind them, sealing the team inside the final arena. Unlike the shifting labyrinth or the obstacle-laden gauntlet, this chamber was eerily still. A vast, circular space, its floor etched with alien symbols that pulsed with an unsettling red glow. The air was thick, humming with static charge, as if the arena itself was waiting. At the far end stood Warlord KZ-Trax. The XY carry commander was massive, even by his species standards. His armor was a dark, iridescent black, segmented plates rippling with energy. For eyes, each a pit of burning orange, fixed on the humans with the cold attachment of a predator who had never lost. Behind him, high above in the observation deck, the audience watched in rapt silence. No more jeering, no more taunts. This was the moment they had come for, the final trial. KZ-Trax spread his claws wide. You have survived beyond expectation. But survival is not victory. His mandibles clicked. You face me now. The trial of dominion. If you wish to leave this place, you must prove that humanity is not a fluke, that your defiance is not luck. Juno Rios tilted her head. So, just to be clear, we beat you, we get to go home? KZ-Trax's expression did not change. If you beat me, you'll have earned something greater than escape. Malik swallowed. That's not ominous at all. Alex Vegas stepped forward. Fine, we do this. KZ-Trax did not give them time to prepare. He moved faster than anything that size should have been able to. 1 second he was across the arena, the next he was in their midst. The battle for humanity. Alex barely dodged as KZ-Trax's clawed arm sighed through the air, missing her by inches. The force of his strike sent a shockwave through the floor, cracking the stone beneath them. Juno was already in motion, ducking low, rolling under his reach, and firing an improvised shock charge at his back. It sparked uselessly. His armor absorbed it. Great, she muttered, backpedaling. We're fighting an overclocked murder tank. Malik, scrambling to analyze, yelled, his armor is shifting adaptive plating. It's adjusting on the fly. Elias, calm despite the chaos, sidestepped the second attack. So brute force is out. Alex gritted her teeth. Then we do what we do best. They adapt, outthinking a monster. Juno drew KZ-Trax's attention, keeping him moving, dodging wide sweeps of his razor-sharp claws. The warlord was fast, but Juno was faster. Malik studied the shifting plates, noticing the brief moments between adjustments, when the armor thinned to recalibrate. There, he shouted. 0.7 seconds between shifts. That's our window. Alex heard him. She calculated the timing. Elias moved next, baiting a feint, forcing KZ-Trax to lunge. The warlord's blade arm cut through empty air, exposed for half a second. Alex was already moving. She drove her fist, a precision strike, straight into the weak point between his shifting armor plates. The impact sent a shockwave through his frame. KZ-Trax staggered. The crowd gasped. Juno took her chance, launching herself into a spinning dropkick to his side. Malik followed up, overloading his stolen drone's core and detonating it at KZ-Trax's feet. The warlord fell to one knee. The Colosseum fell silent. Victory, but not the end. KZ-Trax exhaled, rising slowly. His eyes, once burning with certainty, now held something else. Recognition. He let out a low, clicking chuckle. You learn quickly. Alex wiped blood from her lip. It's a human specialty. KZ-Trax studied them for a long moment, then turned to the silent crowd. This trial is over. Gasps rippled through the audience. Murmurs. One of the XY carry warlords stood abruptly. You will not let them live? KZ-Trax's mandibles twitched. They have earned more than survival. He turned back to the humans, stepping closer. Your kind is rare. You do not possess the greatest strength, nor the thickest armor, but you fight without limits, without hesitation. You change. You improvise. He glanced up, addressing the gathered leaders. I name humanity worthy. The warlords erupted in argument. Some were furious, others intrigued. KZ-Trax ignored them. He turned back to Alex. You will leave as promised. But know this, you have proven yourselves once. His eyes gleamed. Now the galaxy will want to test you again. Alex smirked. Let them try. Epilogue. A dangerous reputation. The team boarded their shuttle hours later, bruised but alive. As the ship ascended, Malik let out a long breath. I'm going to be honest, he said. I was 95% sure we were going to die in there. Juno stretched, wincing. I mean, technically we still might. Depends how many warlords want payback. Elias sat back, smiling faintly. Then we've done something remarkable. Alex watched Vorkrau shrink into the darkness of space. She thought of Kzitrax's words. Humanity had entered the galactic stage not as conquerors or invaders, but as something far more dangerous, a species that refused to lose. She turned to her team. Let's get ready for whatever's next. Because she knew, without a doubt, this was only the beginning.